What's popping in the streets? I believe, therefore, I am King Silent. Hope you guys are doing all right. I do apologize. It's been a hot minute. Yeah, we just been gone for a minute, but we are definitely back. You guys can see the title of the video. I do obviously feel very passionate about this particular topic. As you guys know, like I said, I've been trying to swing into battle rap conversations a little bit more because it is like the second most favorite thing I enjoy listening to next to dance and music, obviously. But let's go ahead and get it. Yeah. Flat out there, man. I feel like the culture kind of switched up on JC. And if we're just being real, like let's just look at this, from start, middle, to obviously the end result. But to skip to the end so that way people don't have it in question. I did watch the battle with Surf versus JC. I watched it live, and yes, I do agree, Surf 3-0. And as some people know, some people may not know, but JC is my favorite battle rapper, along with Daylight, Lux, and Charlie Clips. Those are my three favorite people, and Ill Will, and I have a variety of people past, that after that and stuff like that, trickles down and stuff like that. But just to, show that, I do have a lot of versatility as far as, styles of rapping that I do genuinely enjoy when it comes to people, when it comes to particular battle artists. But let's just get to it. I've sat here for the last week. Obviously, it happened last Saturday, so we're at 6 days exactly, about to be 7 days to where we saw the battle live on Caffeine, and I did watch it live. That is correct. And I feel like people switched up big time because when we looked at this, no matter how you mix and master, whatever, however you give your preference to it, at the end of the day, this is somebody a performer versus a pen. Surf can say what he wants, and the fans can say what he wants. Yes, can Surf write? Yes, he can. But if we're just looking at it unbiasedly, Surf cannot rap with the top 10 pens in battle rap. And I'm talking just penmanship. I'm not saying battling, of course, because obviously when we look at battles, it's all encompassing. Can you rebuttal? Are you charismatic? Can you perform? Can you write? Your punchlines hitting and stuff like that. Can you build a crowd back? All those things go into play. Confidence, whatever the case may be. All those things go into play whenever we look at battles as a whole. But when we look at this particular battle, it's obvious, and I don't think anybody's arguing that JC isn't a pen. Arguably, he's the number one pen in battle rap because he beat Daylight. And if we're being realistic, it's kind of hard to weigh, Loaded Lux versus JC because JC has been on such a tear for a very, very long time. And obviously, when it comes to pens, I think it's safe to say that Loaded Lux is kind of like the godfather in the culture, so to speak. I don't necessarily calling him the end game or anything like that because I don't want people to think that, if you beat Lux, then all of a sudden you've beaten battle rap. That's not the case. But I do understand how some people may look at him as hey, that's an extra level, that most people can't even get to. You can only be great to get to Lux. So, but moving past that. But again, I personally believe that he is the best pen in battle rap. And then arguably Surf would be the best performer because you do have a lot of people like K-Shine and Hitman Holla and stuff like that who are amazing when it comes to performing. Ill Will, a lot of those people. Ill Will is very, very underrated when it comes to performing or just simply being an extremely versatile rapper, but that's not what we're here for. But I've sat here for the last week and I've listened to almost every single interview. I've watched fans, obviously troll JC and stuff like that. Obviously we're still getting some jokes about Tay Rock and the Raccoon. That's just at the top of it. But we've sit here and watched how hard, how critical people are being of how JC dropped the ball. Now, the first thing that I want to address, and of course, when we look at this, is that we have to, I guess, kind of look at a lot of the underlying tones. This entire time, the pressure was always on JC. Always. And whether people want to admit it or not, in my personal opinion, I'm somebody I consider myself unbiased, even though I do prefer JC over Surf. But again, that's why I'm simply saying it was clear that it was a 3-0. I don't think it was a body bag JC died because obviously when we look at this, this was nowhere near Surf's best performance, especially what we've seen versus Twerk and John. It just wasn't. So when we look at this, it was just kind of all right, Surf edged every single round. When we look at the underlying, I guess, tone of this, we watched how JC at months at a time, possibly. I don't know if he did or not, but I think it would be very ignorant of me to believe, or any of us to believe, that JC never saw any of these interviews, or he never saw what people were saying over social media and stuff like that. JC does pay attention a lot. We've seen how relevant he can be in terms of conversations and stuff like that. So I think it's safe to say that he was paying attention to what was going on. And all it simply was this entire time was, oh, JC needs to do this. JC needs to do that. JC needs to do this. It's like we're not, we're confident that he's going to bring a pin to the battle, but you have to match the Surf's energy. Like, you have to bring, crowd control. You need to be punching. You need to be direct. You need to be angles and stuff like that. And when he actually did that, it didn't work. Now, here's where I kind of call the BS on the entire culture, because I watched Goods, I watched Daylight, I watched, Arse, I watched Verb, I watched Tay Rock and them talk about it. We seen Hip Hop Is Real was kind of being biased, and they say like, oh, JC's dubious ending and stuff like. It was just kind of like, all right, that's what y'all are painting here. And clearly that JC dropped the ball. Now, obviously, Surf didn't necessarily drop the ball if he won, but it's still kind of like, all right, Surf, for what you say you were going to do to JC, you didn't. You just kind of managed to, I guess, in my personal opinion, you just kind of lapped him or beat him to the finish line, I guess, for lack of better words. But when we looked at JC, it was like all the fans and all the battle rappers were saying, even Verb was like, oh, you need a promo. You need to get in there and start talking shit. And we even saw, like, when he did the face-off, like, it was like, damn, this nigga JC is out here talking mad reckless. Like, and it was kind of funny because we even, as a fan base of people who really love battle rap, it looked like JC won that face-off, clearly. Like, he was talking crazy, and he's like, how did you get an EFB? That's a West Coast-based crew. The same way you got in Rolling 60s. Like, that was a heavy-ass rebuttal, and we saw J Black and DNA, and even Surf and them were kind of like, okay, you talking spicy. You must be ready. So as we kind of look at that, it's just kind of like, dang, all right, we expected him to be ready. But the problem that I have is where I believe, like, the fan base and all the other battle rappers are not owning up to the fact that it's possible that everybody peer pressured JC into taking this type of approach. And we said it's like, oh, JC couldn't work a crowd. JC couldn't work a crowd. We've seen him work a crowd on numerous occasions. We've seen him how good he was against Chef Tress. We've seen how good he was against Charlie Clips the first time they battled, because the second time was in a small room. We saw how well he did against, who else did he battle? When he battled Chess, I said Chess already, Rum, DNA, like, was probably one of his best ones. Like, it's not to say that he can't do it. I just think that in this particular situation, it's highly possible that the entire world peer pressured JC into taking a different approach versus doing what he's done best. Now, in any other situation, let's just be realistic. In any other situation that we can look, okay, all right, basketball or boxing or whatever the case may be, it's one thing to prepare for something, but it's another thing to switch up your entire style last minute against somebody who does something in particular much better than you do at a much higher level, arguably at the best. The same way how they commit they have the argument as far as in regards, almost in a sense, kind of looking at like Muhammad Ali versus Mike Tyson. Like, what if Muhammad Ali would have got in there and tried to go blow for blow with Mike Tyson? Like, he would have got destroyed. Muhammad Ali has never been a brawler. Like, he's always been a calculated striker. Like, he's a strategist when he gets in there. And it's the same way we look at this. All right, Steph Curry, you gonna try and get in the paint with LeBron James? No, that's not your game. Like, shoot threes from half court or from behind the 3-point line. Do that. So all I'm simply trying to get everybody to understand is that, like, everybody was saying that JC needed to take this approach when it came to serve, despite the fact that everything that JC had done up until this point worked. It got him in front of Surf. So what was the point in switching up now? And I can even say it. I personally just wanted JC to be more direct. I didn't say that, he had to come with an angle or he needed to start, rapidly punching and stuff like that. Like, again, JC's blueprint had worked all the way up until this point. So what's the point of switching it up last minute against somebody like Surf? What was it, like 2 or 3 months? I know it wasn't 4. That he had to prepare to get ready for Sue Surf. That's not enough time. And let's keep it funky. We'll address the the X factor as far as like in terms of looking at the crowd. Yeah, the crowd was terrible. We're not finna trip. We're absolutely right. When you look at that, when you watch that crowd, it was like, all right, we kind of fuck on this a little bit. And then when Surf gets in there and he kind of turns up in the first round, then it's like, all right, you got to match everything from up above. But let's be honest, we've seen that dozens of times before with JC's opponents. And what does JC do? Takes his time and walks his opponent down. That was his thing. He's like, I walk my opponents down. Now, I'm not saying that it's all right, being more direct doesn't necessarily mean, take an angle. And we even saw like how JC was talking to him. He's like, you got shot, and stuff like that. And, you out here manipulating the game and stuff like that. I don't think there was anything wrong with that. But my issue that I do believe is that it's like, all right, this is not typical JC. JC has a pin. In my personal opinion, with that, what we saw from that crowd and that type of performance, had JC stuck to what he usually does and simply just right for his opponent, he would have won that battle. 2-1, I could argue. I don't think anybody else could argue that. Now I get it. You're taking all the responsibility off JC. No, I'm not taking all the responsibility off JC, because there's a lot of things that I do believe as well that like played a little bit of a factor to that kind of like, dare I say, kind of swayed the crowd. Yeah, when I saw him walking with that big ass green hoodie, I was kind of like, and them glasses, I'm like, this is not JC. Like JC is a dog. Like he's kind of, I don't want to call him dirty and nothing like that, but he's real hood. He's kind of gritty. Like he comes in there with a hoodie, maybe a shirt. Like he doesn't do too much. But it's like coming in there with that type of hoodie on and stuff like that, it looked like we got 100K J. This is technically the first time that we've seen, 120K J. That's the first time that we've seen that J. Almost in the same way that we saw the champ when it came with DNA. Nobody really fucked with the champ like that when DNA was doing that persona. And dare I say, people might not fuck with the 120K J. It sounds good, and it's an actual literal title because he did win 120K from winning a tournament. No problem with that. But what I am saying is that if 120K is like, the new clean and crisp and all swagged out JC, I'll be honest, like I don't think that's the JC that we need. With all due respect, when I say this, don't turn into Calico. Because in my honest opinion, when I watched that battle, that's who I saw. I was like, this don't seem like JC. Like, what is this? What is this? Where's the pin? You know what I'm saying? Like, where's the shit that that kind of goes overhead to where he has to like help niggas understand it, so to speak. Like, that's the game plan, in my personal opinion, he should have stuck with. And I think the battle rap community has to accept the fact that they peer pressured him into doing that. And even if it's not, okay, you didn't peer pressure him, but that was what everybody was pushing for. And guess what? That's what you got. Daylight even said, speed it up. Sped it up in the third. Rapid punching in the third. Didn't work. So my question again is, if it ain't broke, exactly. JC got all the way there without switching up. And then when he got to the finish line and he would only had one more person to beat before he got to Lux, he fumbled it and switched up. I think that was a bad move altogether. Again, I personally think that he should have just stuck to his own game plan or stuck to what he did best, which was right. Make the crowd think, y'all niggas got to catch up. Nah, I'm just over you niggas. Even if JC would have had a great battle or debatable or classic and stuff like that, I don't think anybody would have a problem because it's Surf. And whether people want to admit it or not, I think the reason why people are so hung up on this is because this was the first legitimate, grudge match that made sense. Respect to, to all the other ones and stuff like that. Like, respect to John, and Don and stuff like that. But John didn't need Surf. Cortez has been on a decline. So it was just kind of like, Sue Surf was just giving him a look. It's like, okay, here we go. And that turned out bad. And then we saw how bad John lost. Like, he really got body bag. He really got body bag. This one was just kind of like bad Surf, even worse JC. And then what happens? Tsu Surf moonwalks to a 3-0. Now, stepping off that, do I personally think that this blocks the potential opportunity for Loaded Lux? In my personal opinion, no. The reason why I say that is because this was also a bad performance from Tsu Surf as well. JC did not die in this battle. And even if he only lost one, we've seen Surf in a hell of a lot worse situations than we've seen from JC. We've seen a shit ton of other opponents do terribly, and guess what? They get a look after that. I think unfortunately, whether people want to admit it or not, we hang on this, oh, you got to perform thing a little bit too much. Now, it was suggested, which I do agree with, small room's cool. Go with a small room. That would be a good battle. Or even a small stage. I'm okay with that. It is what it is. But I don't think just simply because JC had one bad performance that this blocks everything else for him. Now, in my personal opinion, if I were JC, as some people know, like, hey, yo, I'm a dancer. It is what it is. Ironic. I know, look, the humor in that shit is fucking hilarious. But it is what it is. But when you get beat like that, the best thing that you can possibly do is keep pushing. Don't sit in it. Don't start second guessing your talent, which I know JC definitely won't. But this is the best course of action. I personally don't think that this blocks him from battling Loaded Lux. Now, do I think that this blocks it on a big stage? Absolutely. I do think that JC's stock a little bit in terms of crowd wanting to see him on a big stage has dropped just a little bit. Solely because we don't know what JC we're going to get. Are we going to get this JC or are we going to get the old JC? And as I stated before, JC should have been old JC. The one that battled all these other cats that are just as dangerous as Surf. So, that's my opinion on it. Let me know what your thoughts are. Leave me a comment. And if you'd like to hop on the channel, we'll go back and forth about this. Definitely let me know. We can do that as well. But at the end of the day, it is what it is. I think that the only reason why JC switched up is because the entire community wanted him to. Had there been minimal conversation about it, JC would have came in there and did exactly what he usually would have did. Written and start punching his head off. Call it peer pressure if you want. Make sure you like, share, and subscribe to the channel. We'll catch you on the next one. Peace.